Hello Raptors fans, and welcome back to Raptors Report. Today we'll be discussing the Toronto Raptors game against the Atlanta Hawks, which they won. But before we do that, I'm going to talk about why I think that the Toronto Raptors need to hurry up, make some trades with the veterans, and then go back to tanking. And this is going to be a divisive topic because there are a lot of people, every time I make a video where I even mention the T word, tanking, people kind of get upset. They think that the goal of watching sports and watching your team is to see them win games. And so what is the point of cheering for them to lose? What is the point of them tanking? And I'm going to give some reasons why I think that the Toronto Raptors should be on that path this season. And I know it's a bitter pill to swallow for some people, but I think it's the right course of action, and I'm going to go into why. So first of all, the first reason for the Toronto Raptors to end up with a good draft pick, let's put it that way for right now, is that they really do need another second player next to Scottie Barnes. So when you've seen some of the top teams in the NBA over the past couple of years, one thing that has kind of come out, it used to be that you won a big three. That was kind of a successful formula for the NBA for at least a solid decade, ever since the Boston Celtics put together their big three with Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen. However, I think that the formula has kind of shifted in recent years. For example, the Boston Celtics, the most recent champion, have been kind of a big two for pretty much since the beginning of the Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown era. Two big guys that play well next to one another. They can score the ball and play defense. Same with the Orlando Magic. It looks like that has been a successful formula for them. They have two big guys that can score and play defense. And I think really, with the Toronto Raptors in their current state, I'm a fan of RJ Barrett. I think that he's a good player. Is he a star caliber player that is going to be able to bring out the best in Scottie Barnes? That's a question that I think that most people should be asking themselves. I think he has potential. I think he could get there, but I'm not exactly sure. It's still up in the air. Emmanuel quickly, the shine is coming off of the coin pretty quickly with this guy, because even though his injury history over his career has not been that severe, if you look back at his games played per season, he's been pretty durable. This season is a different story. He has simply not been able to play the game, so it's hard to project whether he's going to be a good enough player to propel the Toronto Raptors out of, mediocrity, should they get there. So I think that staying near the bottom this season and picking up another big name in this year's draft, be it Cooper Flagg at the top, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, Kasparis Yakachonis, Kamen Malawach. There are a bunch of guys in this year's draft that I think have a lot of potential and could be really good players in the future. And I think trying to get one of those players and mold them into a second star to put next to Scottie Barnes is important. So that's number one. Number two, the way that the Toronto Raptors are winning games recently, I think it's a bit of an illusion. If the Toronto Raptors were winning as a result of their youth, if they were winning games because of the younger players on the team getting much better and propelling them to victories, I would be gung-ho, saying, listen, this team is improving, they're getting better, the younger guys are stepping up. It's not that bad that the Toronto Raptors are winning games right now. The problem is that a lot of the wins that they're getting these days are coming from the veteran players on the team. The guys who don't figure to be here long-term. Players who are on expiring or short-term deals. A lot of the wins that they're picking up are the result of these guys playing well, and not because the young guys are stepping up and having, huge nights. Of course, there's been some contribution from them, but the wins are being driven primarily by players like Scottie Barnes, who is a younger veteran, and obviously his growth is very important. I'm not saying that he isn't important to the team, but look at some of the other guys: Chris Boucher, Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, Davion Mitchell, even guys like Jakob Poeltl, who I think could be here longer term, but is still a, older veteran player who may not be part of the Toronto Raptors' future. So with that said, if you are getting wins from those players who aren't going to be here long term, is that really a successful formula that you can carry forward? Is it an indicator of things to come? Or is it an illusion that will disappear once those players are gone? If it is an illusion and they are driving wins, I think that those players should have value. If you're good enough to win games in the NBA as a veteran, then you should have value around the league. The Toronto Raptors should look to extract value from those players who are on expiring and short-term deals, older players. Then let the chips fall where they may. If they trade those guys and the younger players keep winning games, you tried your best to tank and it didn't work out, but you should at least try. Another reason is that the Toronto Raptors are already underwater. They have 13 wins and 32 losses, which is a pretty substantial hole to be in. You are rewarded at the end of the season for having a losing record. If you have a poor record, bottom 5, you will have a pretty good chance of getting a top 3, top 4 pick. And in this draft, top 4 will probably be a very good player. If you are near the top of that range, you will likely get a franchise caliber player. If you're near to the bottom of that range, so 3-4, you are going to get a player with very high upside. If the Toronto Raptors were in a position where they were closer to 500 at this point in the season, then you could make the case that they should pursue other goals. However, they are already close to the prize. It's like if you're sailing to another country, you go half the way in your boat. It's like saying, well, no, time to turn around and go back. Well, you're already half of the way there. Turning around and going back would take just as much time as just completing the journey. Just get on with it. Go through with what you have already started. Finish the process. Okay, that's the logic there. Another reason, I've touched on it, this draft is very good. This is not like last year's draft where there's a bunch of kind of question marks near the top. This draft is filled with names that have the potential to be a very good impact players in the league. Lots of really intriguing guys, lots of players that I like. There's a reason that I'm going through the draft this year and talking about each player, because each of them has unique traits that give them the potential to be impact players in the league. It's a very exciting draft that should yield like a bumper crop of very promising players. So I think that not getting one of these players for the future would be a mistake. I think that is another reason. And then once you have secured one of those players, then you can springboard to the next step. I am just probably like you. If I'm speaking to a person that doesn't like losing, doesn't like tanking, I feel similarly. I don't want this to be a prolonged tank where every year they're just trying to get the highest draft pick. That sucks. It sucks to watch. It creates a losing mentality amongst the players on the team. Coaches get fired, cultures have to change. There's probably flux within the front office. Many times front offices can't survive multiple tank seasons and they have to reorganize things at the top. It's a mess. I don't want to get there. What I think is that let this year play out, get a high draft pick, and then let the front office reconfigure things so that there is a path forward towards winning. And next season will be the year that the Toronto Raptors begin to put together their push. Next season, aim for the play-in. Next season, aim for the playoffs. The East is not in a good place. Make hay then. This season, don't waste what you already have. Now we'll talk about the challenges, because there are some challenges to tanking right now, and I've covered this in the past. But the first challenge is that the Raptors have the easiest remaining schedule in the entire league. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. It's still true. They play a bunch of basement dwellers. And in fact, they have just gone through what should have been a pretty difficult stretch. 2 away games against a mediocre team. You would have expected them to at least lose one of those games, probably both, if you have been paying attention to trends and how poorly the Raptors have played on the road. They played the Celtics and beat them at home. They played the Warriors, beat them. They played the Magic, who were, pretty devastated by injuries, and beat them. So they've gotten some, on paper, if you looked at the schedule at the beginning of the season, you might have penciled those in as losses. Now, with those out of the way, you're going to start to see a lot of really cream puff teams that are really kind of crapola, and the Raptors have a chance of beating. So, yeah, that'll be a challenge. Number 2, I've just mentioned it, is that they are beating mediocre teams right now. And I think they will continue to do that if they have the veterans on the team. These vets are really carrying them, along with Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, these guys have really pushed the Toronto Raptors into competency, and they're beating good and mediocre teams, so that'll be challenging. And the last one is obviously Scottie Barnes is having a fantastic season. He is really showing that he is a special player. And I think that the biggest leap that he's made this season has really been the defense. He has become a superior defender. He's really doing it all, and he's looking really good offensively as well. He's becoming a pretty scary player, and he has been the best player on the floor the past 2 nights. Yeah, if that happens, if you have the best player on the floor, the chances that you win the game are pretty good. I mean, if you can put your fingerprint on every aspect of the game like Scottie Barnes can, you got a chance to win. So those are some challenges there. And on that note, talking about Scottie Barnes, let's get into the player evaluations from last night, because the Toronto Raptors did beat the Atlanta Hawks for the second night in a row. And I've been giving Scottie Barnes top billing here for the past couple of games. I'm going to make a bit of a change. I'm getting voter fatigue like some people do with MVP, and I'm going to give it to one guy who has been a huge difference maker, and especially in these games. The guy I'm talking about, Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell, let's read off the stat line, because you're probably, if you didn't watch the game, you might be a little confused. 8 points on 8 shots. What's the big deal? 1 of 4 from 3. Again, not great. 1 of 1 from the free throw line, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 turnover. Yeah, so what? Let's read off Trae Young's stats, because Trae Young is clearly one of the best guards in the NBA. 16 points on 12 shots, 1 of 4 from 3, 5 of 8 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. So he lost his streak. He had like a couple hundred games where he had at least 5 assists. 11 turnovers. 11 turnovers. Davion Mitchell just ate this guy for breakfast and was a thorn in his side the entire evening, harrying him, following him, not getting baited into fouls. He had a really good sequence where Trae Young has this, he takes advantage of one of the most annoying fouls that the league can award. So what you do is you run a pick and roll, and the player goes over the screen, and now they are in a trailing position behind you. What he will do is he'll accelerate so that the player defending him will try and stay attached, and then he will stop in his tracks and kind of like twerk backwards and push his butt backwards. And then if the defender runs into him, he'll go flying forward, and the ref will call a foul. It's foul baiting, it's cheap, it's tacky. He loves using that. Davion Mitchell read him like a book, and anytime he tried that kind of crap, Davion Mitchell did not get baited into that foul. He and Jakob Poeltl did a really good job of guarding the pick and roll. He followed Trae Young around the court and did not allow him to get any easy shots. And as a result, Trae Young probably had one of the worst games of his career. 16 points on 12 shots, 4 assists, and 11 turnovers. That's the most turnovers he's had in an entire game. And a lot of them were just trying to make things happen. He was being guarded tightly. He would throw the ball and it would not make it to its target. And, a lot of that is just Davion Mitchell being a big-time pest and controlling his movement around the floor. If Trae Young is able to set the pace and kind of get where he wants to go, he's going to make plays for his team. And if you have a guy that can stop him from doing that, then the Hawks are going to look discombobulated. They're not really going to be able to do what they want to do. And he was a huge driving force in the Toronto Raptors being able to win both of these games. So I will admit that I think Scottie Barnes, in terms of his overall impact, probably had a better game, but he's been coming first every time. I just wanted to give Davion Mitchell a little shine here because I think he did such a great job. Next up, we'll talk about Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes is emerging. He is leveling up. He's making a leap. We've all seen it. If you've been watching the games, he is becoming very consistent in what he is doing, what he is bringing. What he is bringing is excellent two-way play, defense, playmaking, and interior scoring. 24 points on 17 shots, great. 1 of 5 from 3, not amazing. He hit a nice catch and shoot above the break 3. That was pretty good, but I'm not going to be too perturbed by him taking 5 shots from beyond the arc. 7 of 7 from the free throw line. He's really starting to use his body as a weapon. He's really starting to go inside, and against a small team like Atlanta, they can't really stop him. Their best big man, their biggest player really this 2-game series was Onyeka Okongwu, who's a good player, but he is not a guy that can match the physicality of Scotty Barnes at the rim. Scotty Barnes is going to be able to impose his will on the inside if the biggest and strongest player is Onyeka Okongwu. So he knew the game plan. It's time to bully this tiny team, and he did. 7 free throws is a pretty good indicator of that, and he made all 7 free throws. Great. 12 rebounds. Again, you're big, you're strong. You have the ability to guard the paint. You're in the paint anyway. Get those boards. He did. 7 assists, much better than recently, especially if he's playing off ball a little bit more. He's not going to have the ball to pass it every single time, but when he does have the ball, he makes it count, and he makes plays for other players on the team. 2 steals, 2 blocks, 4 turnovers. Just, a commanding performance. And it's getting a little ho-hum at this point. We're witnessing a guy become consistent and do this every night, bring it, and be an impact player. And this was kind of what you were hoping for when he was drafted. A big 2-way forward that can play make and do everything. His defense is so disruptive. He plays very well off of the ball. He is in the passing lanes, and he's playing help defense. If you need him to, he can switch onto the perimeter. He was picking up Trae Young when he needed to. He's just doing it all, really. He's contributing in almost every facet of the game, just like a player of his skill set and his size and ability should be able to do. So he is meeting the expectations that I had for him, which were high, which is very good. I'm very happy with his performance. Next up, we'll go to RJ Barrett. Very, very good offensive game from him. He is kind of the pacemaker of the Toronto Raptors, where he consistently scores every quarter, paces himself throughout the game, where he hits shots, he makes plays, he doesn't dominate or require the ball too much in order to make an impact on the offensive side of the ball. 23 points on 13 shots, incredibly efficient, 3 of 4 from 3. The guy has really kind of come on lately as a 3-point shooter, and he's the way he's getting those threes is they kick the ball to him and he shoots it, and it's above the break. Those are very valuable shots. These are spot up shots. These are exactly the types of shots that he should be taking, and honestly, if he wants to be working with Scotty Barnes, those are the types of shots that he's got to make, and he's making them. Great. 2 of 4 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds, impressive, 4 assists, 1 steal, 2 turnovers. The turnover problem is back under control. Very impressed with him this game, especially on the offensive end. On the defensive end, I don't like to say this because I like RJ Barrett as a player. I think he's a good player. He falls asleep on defense too often, and there's some clips on social media, and I mean, you see it when you watch the game, but when he's off the ball, he kind of snoozes. His brain kind of goes into power save mode, and he does not really know where to be. And I'm going to give him a break. I mean, not everybody is an everything player. Not every player is going to be good at everything. I mean, Scotty Barnes seems to be good at everything, maybe not 3-point shooting, but almost everything else. He is a big plus. RJ Barrett is more of a one-way player. To his credit, he's doing a very good job recently. I think he was either the third or second best player, depending on who you have over Davion Mitchell. I'll give Davion Mitchell the edge because I gave RJ the edge last time, but yeah, I think he had a good game, and I don't want to diminish his accomplishments. Next up, Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl had a solid game. 9 points on 6 shots, 1 of 1 from the free throw line, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 1 block, 2 turnovers. And unlike last game where he was more of a scorer and not very okay on defense, this game I think he was great on defense. He was part of the formula that helped really bottle up the Hawks pick and roll game plan. When he needed to switch onto the perimeter, he could do that. He's doing a really good job splitting the difference between covering Okongwu on the lob and also bothering Trae Young. helping Davion in that screen and roll. I think he just did a really good job there. And then, he helps run your offense. He had some really nice passes. He hit Grady 2 games ago, and then he hit Boucher last night with a nice alley-oop dunk. He's just playing a really solid game. I think he had a really good game, and consistency is king with Jakob Poeltl. You know what you're going to get pretty much every night, which is a solid play on both ends. The game before this, Grady Dick had a really good game. He was really scoring very well inside the arc. This game, I think he had a pretty nightmarish performance, especially on the defensive end. He was very poor on the defensive end. Vit Krejci, who is their shooter on the Hawks, had kind of a career game. He had 20 points on 13 shots. And the coaching staff, as I've mentioned before, has shifted Grady Dick's assignment. He doesn't have to go over screens anymore. We saw it more this game. I think the Hawks kind of saw that adjustment that the Raptors had made with Grady Dick, and they exploited it. Vit Krejci had the green light to come off of screens and shoot the ball off the dribble. And Grady Dick was trying to go under screens, but getting hung up on the screen. It was nasty. He could not stay in front of guys. Every time he stepped onto the floor, the Hawks would kind of go on a run, and he got some quick hooks in this game. Darko just did not like what he was seeing defensively from Grady Dick. He had a really rough night. He shot the ball okay. He hit a couple of threes. He was 2 of 7 from the field with 6 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists, and also 5 fouls because he just couldn't keep guys in front of him. Poor night from him. I think he's kind of hit a wall in his sophomore season, had a really good start to the season, and now it's kind of tailing off. He's sporadically having good games here and there, but just not seeing it here. I really need to see more from this guy. Off of the bench, we will go back to Quebecois Kevin Durant. That is Chris Boucher. 23 points on 10 shots, mega efficient, 3 of 4 from 3. He was hot. He was splashing threes, 6 of 6 from the free throw line, taking advantage of the size of the Hawks. 5 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 1 block, 0 turnovers, plus 21 on the game. So I know it doesn't really matter. This was a blowout from wire to wire almost. And he really brought it. He hit some timely shots when the Hawks looked like they could be going on a bit of a run. Chris Boucher was the silencer. He was banging shots and playing with a ton of energy. Against a team like the Hawks, the game plan should really be shove it down their throat, get inside, get into the paint and score. He did that and also mixed it up outside as well, but he was going inside, he was drawing fouls, he was really just punishing the Hawks front line. The Hawks really didn't have an answer for him, and as we all know, he can contribute if his shot isn't on, but if his shot is on, he's very difficult to stop. He is very difficult to stop because he does not have a conscience. He will put up shots, and he is tall, his shot is hard to block. He can score in bunches, and he did. So, excellent game from him. Bruce Brown. So, the stat line didn't look amazing. So, 8 points on 3 of 9 shooting. He missed all of his threes. Over 3 from 3. He has been shooting it a lot better recently, so not too concerned. 2 of 2 from the line. 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 5 turnovers. I didn't even see that 5 turnovers. So, yeah, maybe not a great game from Bruce Brown. I think he needs his running mate, Kelly Olynyk, in the game with him to really steady him. He plays off of playmaking bigs very well, as we've seen in the past, and maybe this was just kind of that happening because Kelly Olynyk did not play this game. But I think his defense was good. I think that he did a lot of really positive stuff. I think that he's playing a lot better as of late, but this is obviously a step back for him in terms of a statistical standpoint. But I still like what I'm seeing from him. Next up, we'll go to Orlando Robinson, who was kind of a surprise for the Toronto Raptors, a surprise for me, at least, because he was the first big off of the bench in the absence of Kelly Olynyk. He played 21 minutes, had 4 points on 2 of 7 shooting, 2 offensive rebounds, 4 defensive rebounds for 6 rebounds, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 3 turnovers. And this is not an impressive stat line, but I was impressed by his rim protection, rim defense, and his rebounding. When the Hawks did go to Clint Capella off the bench, Clint Capella's kind of washed. His foot speed is not there anymore. He is kind of looking ponderous, but he is still a very big player. But when you bring in a big guy like that, it's nice to have a player you can bring off of the bench who can match that type of physicality. And I think Orlando Robinson did a good job of protecting the basket. 2 blocks is very good. He got a steal. And his compete level in the paint, his challenge rate where he's going for blocks, changing shots, I liked it. On offense, he's pretty raw. He turns the ball over too much. And he did hit a nice baseline jumper, but I was kind of pleasantly surprised by him, especially defensively. Not too bad. Jacoby Walter played pretty well to boot. He had 7 points on 6 shots. He hit a 3, 1 of 2 from 3, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, no turnovers. I think it was a positive game from him, really positive. He was running the break well. He has his legs under him. He looks confident. He's taking shots in the flow of the offense. I think that he's looking good. Want to see more of him, especially after some of the veterans are moved, hopefully, knock on wood. And Jamal Shead played too, didn't have a great evening on offense. He still runs the show pretty well. He had 5 points in 22 minutes on 1 of 7 shooting. He was 0 of 3 from 3-point range, 3 of 3 from the line, had 6 assists to 3 turnovers. I think he runs the show pretty well. Even when he's not scoring that well, he's setting guys up and making the right play. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from a point guard perspective, but obviously I would like to see him make a couple more shots than he did yesterday. But in all, this was a laugher. They made the Hawks quit with their defensive energy, their size. I feel like with the Hawks, I mentioned it on social media, I see a lot of 2022-23 Toronto Raptors in this team. That Raptors team, before they got Pirtle, was very small. They got bullied last night by the Toronto Raptors. And when you don't have size, when you aren't as physically large as the other team, it's an uphill battle. If you can't match another team physically, you're going to get pushed around, you're going to get beaten up. It's going to be tough to win a game. And they looked out of sorts. And I really credit Davion Mitchell yet again for being the thorn in Trae Young's side for 2 games in a row. He had 2 horrible games against the Raptors, and Davion Mitchell was a big part of that. Jamal Shead was a big part of that as well. Can't forget him. I think that the Toronto Raptors kind of dealt with the Hawks. They had an antidote to what the Hawks like to do. And Scotty Barnes was magnificent, and they got contributions from their veterans. It was a solid team effort where they were able to just kind of smack around the Hawks and make them look really bad in front of their home fans. So next up, the Toronto Raptors play the Pelicans tomorrow in Toronto at 7:30. The Pelicans have Zion Williamson. Brandon Ingram is out. DeJounte Murray is day-to-day. He might be playing, he might not, but they have looked out of sorts. They have had some injury problems. The Toronto Raptors have beaten them already this season, albeit without Zion. This will probably be a win. I think the Toronto Raptors could keep cruising here, and that is the episode. So let me know, what do you guys think about my analysis on tanking? Do you have your own? Please let me know in the comments, because it's always great to talk to you guys, even if I don't agree with you, even if you have something different to say. I like getting the pulse of what other Raptors fans are thinking about. So leave a comment here in the comments or on Twitter and Blue Sky, where you can reach me at Raps Report. Love hearing from you guys. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this episode. It really helps out. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.